Fufa in Hindi means uncle. She said, Fufa's been shot, Fufa's been shot.
What did you do?
I started crying. I started crying, and
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's just so hard. And Joshua, how did you find out?
Well, that night I was actually out playing pool with a few friends. And I just got there, it was about 10 minutes. And I walked in, we were playing pool. 10 minutes passed by and I got a phone call, and I picked up the phone call. It was my sister, and she was all,
This sister here? Or
The
no,
same
other
sister.
a middle sister,
Same one.
yeah.
So she called you, and what did she tell
She
you?
called me and she told me that I need to get home now. And I was all like, what's going on? And I thought something happened to our father or something. She's all like, she goes, well, Fufa's been shot. And I didn't believe it. I was like, nah, that's not possible. And then she's all like, no, he has. And I was all like, no, I don't believe it. So we hung up the phone. I got in the car, and I got to East Palo Alto. And I run up and I park my car and I run down the street because I live right down the street from us. And when I get there, there's tape everywhere, of course, the yellow tape, yellow caution tape. And, you know, they wouldn't let nobody go through until we're all like, no, we're family. And they let us go through. And once I got there, I still didn't believe it until I actually walked up and it was my uncle's body, you know?
You actually saw him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
we both.
Wow. So how has his death affected you all? I mean, I can see it's affected you now, but in terms of, this was a year ago, almost to the day.
Yeah.
So how have things been?
Go ahead.
It's been really hard. I think that as time has gone by, now our family can talk about it.
It was hard to talk about it.
It was
at
very
first?
hard to talk about it at first. I think everyone was in shock. We were very close to him. My wedding was just a few weeks away, and he was hosting the reception.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and he was actually just an hour before that. He was at our house. He was helping my parents remodel the house, and he had just gone home to get a few tools from his garage and come back. And there was like a gathering at our house. The temple was over to organize a few things,
Right.
and so I mean it was very hard because when we were very close to him, and too he was helping so much with my wedding.
Right.
So that was very difficult. And you know, he was the type of person that always, I mean, he didn't know the word no. He always, if you needed him, he would help you. You know, and if there was something that needed to get done, if there was something that you just didn't know and you called him, he could, especially to his nieces and nephews, because, you know, my aunt and uncle, you know, didn't have children, so they took us as their
Right,
own, you know, so
right.
they're just like a mother and father figure.
Right.
So
Wow.
it was, it's been very difficult. It's been difficult for my parents, all my aunts and uncles. They were all very close to him.
Right.
And so it's, now that we can speak about it,
Right.
it's been easier.
Right. So you talked a little bit about how he was always there for you all.
Yeah.
And then just never said no, he was helping you through wedding. What else can you tell the viewers here about your uncle?
Yeah.
What kind of personality did he have? Was he a quiet guy? Was he?
Nah, definitely wasn't.
Not
was
a quiet guy.
What was he like, Yash?
He was always joking around, all the time, no matter what. Whenever I see him, you know, he'd mess with me, like, oh, it's a girlfriend. Nah, you know, I was young then, but he was a really good guy. He inspired me to become a mechanic, of
Yeah.
course.
And that's what he did. Is that
Yeah,
what he did?
he's actually a jack of all trades, but
Really?
yeah, he was.
There was
he could do-
nothing he couldn't do.
Yeah.
Really?
He was a carpenter. He was a gardener. I mean,
Really?
you
Yeah.
think about it. He did it.
He would fix everybody in the neighborhood's things.
Is
Yeah.
that right? That's
Yeah.
how you got
Everyone
known.
knew it in the
Everybody,
neighborhood.
like, you could just give him a call and you just tell him something's
Really?
wrong, and he'll be there and he'll just fix it. Like,
Wow.
no problem.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think I know we have some photographs of your uncle.
Yeah, this photograph's actually really funny because he did not like to take pictures, and my aunt had to persuade him
Forced
for,
him, actually,
for
to go.
so long to finally, and
It's a lovely photo.
it's
just
actually,
lovely.
you know, it's a much more recent.
22nd wedding anniversary?
Yeah, it was their 22nd wedding anniversary, and it's actually the most recent picture.
Wow.
And he looks good.
Yeah. See if we have another photo.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
that's
that's when he
he's
was younger.
a little bit younger.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is just probably
Yeah.
a few years after my aunt and uncle were married.
That was his
And
style.
how long were they married?
About 20 years.
20 years. Wow. Let's see if we have any other
24 years.
photographs. 24 years of marriage. And here's another.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's my uncle, and next to him is my dad, so my aunt's younger brother, my dad's brother. And this was at an engagement for a cousin of ours. And this is, He was just sitting there. That smirk on his face is probably because he was making a joke.
Yeah.
Because he hated taking
Yeah, he
pictures.
was a funny guy.
He
but
was-
when
Is that
he
right?
took pictures,
Really
he just
funny.
looked
Really
at
made
you like,
you
why are
laugh.
you taking my
Yeah.
picture?
I think we have one more.
Yeah.
If there's one more photo coming up here, we'll see. Yeah, I guess, is that the same event?
I think it's the same event.
Wow.
Yeah.
There he is. Wow. So your uncle was how old then when, at the time he was killed?
He's 50 years old.
50 years old. Wow. So, the tough question is that there must be somebody out
Right.
there who knows something.
Right.
And that's why we have this program, right? So if that person or those people are watching this program, what did you want to say to them? I want you to say it now, as if, because maybe they're watching this program.
Right.
What do you want those people to know who may know something about your uncle's death?
I think that there's no way that no one knows. I mean, there were people, as you say, the people came forward and there were people standing around, and I just don't know how someone can go on knowing in their conscience that they took someone's life and not come forward. And that, when you do something, if the person who did this, when you do something, you don't think about the ripple effect, all the people that it hurts in the process.
Right.
And I think that they must have family. If someone was taken from their life, that meant something to them. It's devastating.
Right.
So
And even if the shooter doesn't come forward, there are probably other people who know.
Definitely.
Right?
Yeah.
So, Yashu, what do you say to them if they're watching this program right now?
The witnesses are around if they're watching this program. I'd wish they'd step forward. Know what I mean?
It would really help our family come to peace. And also just to know that, if this happened to you or your family and you knew someone new, it would be the right thing to do. It would be the right thing to let someone know. You don't like they've been told, you don't have to come. You can say it anonymously. It doesn't have to be that you say who you are. But and I know that Make the Call. This isn't the first episode. There are so many people like this all over, especially East Palo Alto, who've lost someone.
Exactly.
And if someone could just come forward and help these families out, and just like our family.
As the viewers can imagine, the murder of Sunny Maharaj was especially traumatizing to his wife, Shushila, who was there when her husband was shot. And Shushila is here in the studio, but she's just simply unable to talk about all of this. So our hearts go out to you, Shushila, and our pleas go out to all of you to make the call if any of you have any information about the killing of Sunny Maharaj. I thank you both for coming on this program, and I remind people, please make the call, 1-888-MURDER-0. Please make the call. Thank you all so much, and it is our hope that with the help of officers or detectives like Detective Norton, and with you all getting the word out, as we're doing also with this program, that someone will come forward and this murder will be solved. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's what it's about, making the call, 1-888-MURDER-0, or text. That's right, you can now text a tip by texting your information to this number, 650-409-6792. Or you can send an anonymous tip from the Make the Call website. This is a new website, www.makethecalltv.com. When you visit the website, you can send in an anonymous tip. And you can view all of the victim profiles featured on all of our programs, and you can watch past episodes of Make the Call. Take a look at this.
East Palo Alto Police have created a new website for its television series, Make the Call. The TV series gets you acquainted with families of homicide victims and with people in the community who are serious about positive change. The website lets you watch our program, get vital information, and participate in new ways of solving crimes. Here's the address, makethecalltv.com. We want to show you some of the main features you'll find on the site. Victim Profiles is a page that lists people who were profiled on Make the Call. Click on a photo for profile information. Each victim profile page includes a television segment about them. MakeTheCallTV.com archives all of our television programs. The most recent episode can be viewed on the homepage. To see previous episodes, select the link, watch our TV program. Each episode is repeated several times on local cable channels 27 and 28. The schedule at the Cablecast schedule link contains current programs. Another feature of our site is a link to a site called crimereports.com, the mapping website where visitors can see where crimes occurred. MakeTheCallTV.com links directly to East Palo Alto. The Crime Report site was demonstrated in Episode 2 of Make the Call. The reason Make the Call exists is to educate, inform, and encourage you to call with any information that might help us solve violent crimes in our community. It's easy to remember the phone number, and we provide it here on the homepage. There is a special tip number for anonymous texting from cell phones. It receives the content of your message while keeping your phone number and identity private. You can send an anonymous web message by clicking this button from a computer or mobile phone. The button connects you directly to a tip window. The button is found on the homepage and on every victim profile page. Please use these tip features whenever you have any information that may help us apprehend violent criminals. Anonymous tips are helping. The more you participate, the better our chances of stopping these crimes in the first place. Thanks for visiting our site.
That's what it's about, making the call. 1-888-MURDER-0 or text. That's right, you can now text a tip. You can do it anonymously by texting your information to this number, 650-409-6792.
East Palo Alto, it's our community. We're looking out for each other.
We don't want violence, and we don't need fear.
If I hear a gunshot, if I see weapons, if I know anything about a violent crime, I'm going to take action. This is my community.
My friends and family depend on it. But revenge is not the answer. I'll send an anonymous text or I'll leave a voicemail.
It's private and secure. The number is 650-409-6792.
There's a website too.
MakeTheCallTV.com.
It lets me type a message.
It's a small thing, but it might save a life. So now there are 3 ways to take action, and they are all safe, they're all anonymous. They all help us stop the violence.
This past summer in East Palo Alto, we experienced a spike of violence that dismayed and alarmed our community. Before this period, we had seen historic lows in crime and violence, but then tragic events began to unfold. First, we saw the horrific murder of 3-month-old baby Isaac. Violence continued over a period of 2 months with a total of 5 homicides. Because of the participation of our community members, police were able to arrest suspects and identify persons of interest in all of these cases. You stepped up and made the call that made the difference, and we thank you. Now we turn to a very important event that took place on August 4th, 2011, led by Chief of Police Ron Davis and Mayor Carlos Romero. The community gathered to hear what efforts are being made to reduce violence and to speak out and be heard.
I think it's very important to understand that as a community, we've come a long way since incorporation in 1983 and a long way since 1982 when we had that moniker of crime capital, death capital of the country. We are nowhere near that. And our response in the last month as a community, and certainly as our public safety officials, as the chief and his department, has been outstanding in the sense that people have been pouring out to give us information. One of the messages we want to get across today is that if you are engaged in criminal, nefarious activities in East Palo Alto, and if you decide to perpetrate a crime on anyone in East Palo Alto, resident or not, the community and the police will track you down, and you will pay for these crimes.
Murder, homicide is never good, okay? Now, it's tough to solve those crimes, but, you know, we can help. The community can help solve those crimes. You know, a lot of people know what happened, when it happened, until they start stepping up to the plate and getting rid of those undesirables that's killing and murdering unmercifully. We're going to have this problem on down the road. We're just going to kick the can down the road a little bit. So we got to get to our folks, our relatives, kids out there on the street. They got to help solve these problems. They know who did it.
Why do we have to wait for these things to happen? And I want to know, now that I work with parents, whenever they call me about their kids, you know, going in those directions, where do I send them? Because I'm calling the number that you guys have with the two, I forgot their names, Veronica. Yes, and I never got a response back, so I don't know if that parent ever got that help.
There is a new, relatively new program, I think, here in the county of San Mateo, but it's throughout the state. It's called 211. And so you can dial, just as you dial 911, you can dial 211, and they will connect you to services that are non-police related. Now, you're going to have to go through that process. I understand from Supervisor Carol Broom that it's now up and running, it's functioning, they're getting the kinks out, but I believe it's actually working, and it does do the referral piece that you're talking about. It's not only bilingual. I understand they have a total of 19 languages because they can hook up with other places around the state. So it's very important. Keep that number in mind. You're right. We need to figure out how we do the information referral piece a little better. Very well taken. I've jotted that down. We'll figure out certainly how we can get the 211 number out.
I just wanted to implore the chief and the mayor. As you know, the governor signed AB 109 that beginning October 1st will begin to release do the early release of offenders back into community. And the planning began yesterday in San Mateo County through the Community Corrections Partnership around how to invest the $5 million that's been allocated for this current fiscal year in order to provide reentry services. Again, the very first meeting was yesterday. I think it's critical that East Palo Alto be a part, an active part of the reentry work that's being planned at the county level, because we know that we will see a number of those individuals returning back to their families here where we live in our community. And so I know that the other reentry funding dried up. This may be an option for some additional funding that we may be able to leverage, but if we're not at the table, we can't and won't be considered.
Thank you for bringing it up, because that's one of those areas that will slide in and catch us off guard if we're not paying attention, and we will get, I'll say it a little stronger, we will get the short end of the stick, and we'll have the largest amount of constituency that will be affected by it, and we'll have pennies. And it will perpetuate this whole idea of this recidivism rate. To this day, the East Palo Alto Community and Police Department was still the only police department to ever run a reentry program funded by the State Department of Corrections. To this day, this police department is the only police department that acknowledges the issue of redemption, that people deserve a second chance, and would work more about providing alternatives than putting people in prison. And to this day, that was about a $6 million contract that also put people working on the freeways, making $10 an hour cleaning up litter. I would say that that's community policing. The effectiveness is recidivism rates went from 70+% to below 20%. That's pretty significant. That means fewer of our young men, especially young men of color, went to prison.